Okay, and welcome back. We're looking at the word of the day here. Practice for SAT. Our words today are our second part of our series on hot SAT words that all relate to speaking. So we're going to start off with loquacious as an adjective. Very talkative, liking to talk, garrulous. We looked at garrulous in our last section here. It comes from loqui, Latin to speak. Okay. I have some examples for us. So we have the loquacious advocate is more likely to gain his case than a taciturn one. We have a nice antonym, also one of our SAT words, taciturn. Coming from the Proverbs of Scotland, our second example, at home in the woods, he is the most frolicsome and loquacious. Coming from the Atlantic Monthly, back in 1866. Our last example here, Tatterlig, loquacious, as he might be on occasion, knew when to hold his tongue. Coming from the Duke of Chimney. So that's our first word there, loquacious. We see some historical examples as well as some more contemporary examples, or a more contemporary. Let's move on to our second word, prattle. Verb, to speak on and on in a senseless or silly manner. To talk foolishly, to rant. We can also use it to talk very loudly, even wildly. We see this from mid-16th century, Low German, prattelen. We can also see it in Dutch, protelen, to mutter. I don't know if my Dutch pronunciation is correct, but let's look at some examples of this prattle. It's kind of a fun word, sounds like child's rattle, right? So to talk kind of in a senseless way. So our example, you know how readily we get into prattle upon a subject dear to our heart. You can excuse it. As for all the prattle about pre-Raphaelitism, I confess to you that I am weary of it and long have been. Our last example, the boy had pattered French with the former, since he had begun to prattle at all. So we can see a bit of rhyming there with pattered and prattle. So interesting, fun word to use. I think I've heard it once or twice from my British friends. Moving on, let's look at rhetorical. So this is relating to speech that's used to persuade or have some effect. Can be insincere in expression. So we have mid-15th century, eloquent from Latin rhetoricus, from Greek rhetorikos, oratorical, rhetorical, skilled in speaking, from rhetor or orator. We might think of the oracle, right? Very famous place where people would go to have their questions answered. And of course, we're going to see Plato using this. So, for I do not imagine that I have any rhetorical art of my own. It's a classic Plato. Let's take a look at a couple other examples. So, it was a gracious touch, a rhetorical olive branch to his vanquished foes. Our second example, but this new flavor of rhetorical flim-flam is still pretty well whack. And our last example, yet the president uses it for rhetorical vividness, a clarity, as it were. So some nice uses here. Some contemporary. some historical. Moving along, verbose, using too many words, wordy, long-winded. We can see it from Latin verbosus, full of words, from verbum, word. 1540s, we can see from French, verbosity. I put in a few synonyms here: prolix, tedious, inflated, turgid, voluble, talkative, and loquacious, which we looked at today. Our first quote is talking about Tupac. So we're saying Pac may not be as verbose as other rappers of his time, but his flow is intricate and complicated to replicate. Second example from history: the Spaniards, with their verbose solemnity, particularly bored him. And another example: in style, they are verbose and heavy and very frequently polemical. And lastly, from Ireland, O'Malley, verbose as ever, did all the talking and vending of news. It's a nice word there, verbose. Let's take a look at our last word today, voluble, as an adjective, talking a great deal with ease, glib. We can see this from the 15th century, liable to constant change. From Middle French, voluble, from Latin volubilis, that turns around, rolling, flowing. Figuratively, of speech, fluent, rapid, from volver in French, to turn, around, to roll. Some synonyms: articulate, garrulous, loquacious. An antonym, as we saw at the beginning of our lesson, taciturn. First example: in his voluble, guns blazing manner, Andover made the hollowness of New York Fashion Week, which ends Thursday, apparent. Second example: the likeliest person to defeat the voluble Georgian is Gingrich himself. Speaking of Newt Gingrich there. We'll close with just a couple of historical examples here of this word. So let's have a look. But are you voluble enough to drown all sense in a torrent of words? Fluent and voluble upon all other subjects, upon this he hesitated. A voluble fellow, of what original nationality I could not determine. So that ends our words of the day here. I'm going to keep going with these. Again, I'm putting hot SAT words into groups. So this was the group about speaking. There's another video on the first 5 or 6 words we did on speaking. But this will conclude this first category. If you'd like to reach me, you can. My name is John. My email, sat123vocab@gmail.com. If you like the videos, go ahead and maybe subscribe or hit like or leave a comment that you appreciate them. They take maybe an hour to put together, so if I see that people are interested, I'll keep on doing this. So hopefully this helps you, and I look forward to seeing you in our next category of words, probably coming in a day or two. So have a great day. Thanks for joining us for Word of the Day, and we'll see you in the next video.